With that, I want to just say just a last thank you before I hit the mute button and transition over to Karen. But Karen, we continue to appreciate the work that you do and your heart, and I can't wait for everybody to see you on the big screen and sharing about the program. And you did so well, and I just appreciate you. So with that, I'll turn it over to Karen to give us her update.
Thank you so much, Eddie Lee. I don't know. I like those kinds of videos because they can edit out all the dumb things you say. So I know that they will make me sound good, even if I didn't really. So thank you. I want to thank Heather because we do have a lot of new people here, and so Heather's been hitting the streets, probably via Zoom, so more like the technology streets, but she has been, inviting a lot of new folks to our group and getting more people involved. I know a lot of times we would end up, sometimes with 100 people at an in-person meeting, but it wasn't, in this virtual world, it's just really hard to get that many people, in the same Zoom room together at the same time. But it's so exciting to see the new people that Heather has been getting together. And this is the Sebastian County Alliance, but many of your organizations serve both Crawford and Sebastian. So you are more than welcome to be on Charlotte's Alliance as well, which is the Crawford County Alliance. And I know many of you are, so we're happy to have you on both. I'm going to share my screen, give some updates. So the 100 Families Initiative, Sebastian County only. I'm only putting Sebastian County in these stats from now on because we will be giving separate slides for Crawford County. And so there were 112 active families as of July 31st. And these are all families that have been served in the last couple of months. So they are definitely active. We removed anybody we were unable to contact from the various agencies, like a community-wide program. So this is a lot of people inputting data into the system, a lot of organizations feeding this information to us and actually serving families in crisis. So there were 112 active families representing about 280 children. I have added, so this is the areas of crisis they're in at intake. I have added a couple of areas. We actually have, 13, 14 assessment areas, and I have added 2 to our regular monthly a list that we give you, and those 2 are mental health and safety. And I did that because our focus today is on a little line you saw in the declaration that Heather read about how we will not ignore the trauma that our families have been through, and how we will address that. And so we have learned that these parents have been through a lot of trauma in their lives, and we're going to zoom in on that today, and how the police force and the guidance center and several others in the community are trying to address that. So you can see the mental health numbers. About 31% of the families that come to our agencies for help were in a mental health crisis. They were not receiving assistance of any kind, but they were in crisis mentally. And 32% were at risk, but it also means that they're seeking treatment. So they're receiving some sort of treatment, but they are kind of on the verge. 31% were stable and 4% were thriving. And if you go to the next slide, these are the as of July 31st numbers, and you'll see the mental health, that the crisis did go down. So we were able to connect more people to counseling. So that's why you saw that at-risk number actually increase so greatly, is because more people were actually attending counseling sessions. So that's good. That's our goal, right? And then also there were more people in the thriving area, which is really good because they are, feeling very stable mentally and possibly not even needing that additional assistance any longer. In the safety area, I wanted to just point out those two. So at intake, we had 7% in crisis that they're probably currently in a domestic violence situation and reported that to us. And then 49% were at risk. So that might be that they're fleeing the situation, they're seeking help in that situation. 33% were stable, and 11% were thriving. And you can take that over to as of July 31st. And most of these clients, by the way, have only been in our system for a couple of months. So we do have some clients that are longer term. They have been part of the program a long time, but the majority of them are in the last 2 or 3 months were provided intake. So safety as of July 31st, 4% were in an actual crisis still. They were still in that domestic violence situation and did not feel safe, but we were not able to get them out of that situation yet, although I'm sure our counselors are our case managers are seeking to do that. 37% were fleeing or seeking assistance. 37% were stable, in a stable situation, felt very safe, and then 22% no longer needed any assistance with their safety issues. So you can see that was a big thriving move from to more people feeling very, very safe. And so that's part of our goals. And I wanted to just show you those specific lines. We have a lot of assessment areas, and so I try not to bombard you with all of them all at once, but you can see the employment one is one we usually focus on. Only 25% at intake had stable employment versus 35% as of July 31st. So that is good, although not near as good as our numbers usually are. And so we know that is a result of COVID. Typically our as of numbers, our outcome numbers are much, much higher in the area of employment. And so by the time that we reach an outcome, and so that's something that we want to continue to work on as everybody gets back to work in some way, that our clients have the opportunity to do that. And we did have some people relapse, but overall they were you can see that we are having positive outcomes even in the recovery areas. I don't know if I'm moving back and forth too fast to look at, but that recovery one is in the middle there. 22% in crisis at intake versus 12% in crisis at the outcome. So the rest are receiving services or have stopped using entirely and are finished with their recovery services. So you can see the rest of them as well. It's very interesting. We could go into a deep dive in any of these areas and really learn a lot, but for the sake of time, I'm gonna just move on and stop sharing my screen here and give it back to Heather.
Thank you, Karen. As she mentioned, we're wanting to focus a little bit today on the mental health and trauma assistance, and so we thought that would be a really good resource for people in this time. So we've got a couple of special guests this morning joining us. I wanted to hand it over then to Captain Grubbs from the CIU, just to introduce yourselves and briefly explain what the CIU is, if you would. There you go.
Well, good morning, everyone. And just let me start off with Daniel Grubbs, Fort Smith Police, captain over the Field Operations Division. I've served with the city for 21 years. And I think this 100 Families program is outstanding. It's just amazing. I love what you all do, all the resources that pull together that have serving in their heart, and I think it's great. I'll let Corporal Bill Harden and Officer Sherry Taylor, let them introduce themselves. They're the ones that are initially assigned to our crisis intervention unit, and I'll let them take the floor and explain what their roles are and what they do.
Hello, I'm Corporal Harden, Portsmouth PD. This is Officer Taylor. We're currently assigned to the CIU unit, the Crisis Intervention Unit with Portsmouth PD. What we do is we reach out to people that we have come across in a police capacity that may have mental illness or substance abuse issues, and we try and get them to the help that they need through the various organizations we have in the city. We've gotten people in contact with Valley, the Guidance Center, both the hospitals. We work pretty close with all of them, and that's about it. We try and defer as many people from jail or prison sentences that don't need to go to jail that need help more. So that's where we really work on. You have anything you want to say? That's it.
Thank you. So what you all do is absolutely critical to the health of this community. You've got a new database that everybody is interested in learning about to help individuals with mental illness. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I'll also say, in law enforcement, mental illness is one of those hidden black eyes that a lot of society just did not want to acknowledge or even speak of or know exist. And so both of these programs, these are at the spirit of Chief Danny Baker, so I want to give him credit. He's the one that said, this is what I want, make it happen. So all credit to him. These were his ideas. We're the ones that made it happen. And I will also, Patrol Division encounters so many different situations where we utilize the CIU as much as we can. There's various calls for service we go to, and we recognize that this is a mental illness type issue. And so they'll call them when they're on duty to come and assist, or their office is right across from mine. They're listening to the radio, they hear a certain call go out, and there are certain people that we deal with on a day-to-day basis, and we know them by name. They're hearing the radio, they're leaving their office to go assist out in the field to try to do what they can. So it's amazing over the years now, at least law enforcement agencies have more resources that we can partner with to get the help that we need. We're not trained in a lot of these to the level that we can give them the assistance they need. And just thank God that we have so many more resources now we can reach. So moving forward, the other database that you speak of, the vulnerable person database, again, is an idea from Chief Baker. We ran with it, and actually I think it's a phenomenal program. The spirit of this program is there are members of society and there are caretakers that have someone in the household that have mental illnesses or mental deficiencies that they cannot take care of themselves. If they have a tendency to wander off or are prone to not be able to communicate. So they're a danger to themselves, to their others. So those with potential dementia, Alzheimer's, autism. So we advertise this database that's completely voluntary, that there's a questionnaire we have them fill out. There's a photograph that they submit with the packet. Everything is complete. And we enter that into our dispatch system and our records management system. We have that address flag. So in theory, if someone, a child, parent wanders off, we have this information at hand for we don't have to ask those questions while we're on the way. We can have an address flag that there's a vulnerable person that lives at this address. We can immediately pull that information, photograph, descriptions, trigger elements that might escalate or de-escalate this particular person. So we have all that information before a crisis actually happens, where once you show up, most are going to be completely stressed out and can't answer a lot of these critical questions that a law enforcement officer is going to need to know to help locate. someone who may have wandered off. So I think that's the beauty of it. Secondly, there are times that we may encounter a person that is a vulnerable person that can't communicate or can't answer our questions. So when you have this database, you can automatically go to it and start flipping through your photographs and go, this is who this is. And then that will give us the address, any needed information we need medically, contact information to get, you know, them home safely.
Yeah, and we, I know I'm not just speaking for myself. I know everybody appreciates all the efforts that the police officers are doing. You know, you hear how they're getting involved in the community and really trying to connect. So we know how important that is, and appreciate you all and Chief Baker getting involved in that way. So can you talk a little bit more about how specifically you interact with people with mental illness, and along those lines, how we as a community can assist the police in that process?
We're goal is to have every officer trained in the crisis intervention 40-hour class that we can. We were on a great pace to have everyone trained in that capacity until COVID hit. So we give training on the best information we have as far as trying to de-escalate situations, give distance, give time, let the CIU officers come out and help negotiate that. We have a partnership with Guidance and Health, to where we can do screenings out in the field to let counselors at the crisis stabilization unit actually have a counselor speak one-on-one with these individuals, because sometimes this uniform is a barrier to someone that might be having a mental crisis. So those are the steps that we have, and that's what we, you know, are utilizing. We're partnered with Vista and Guidance Center. I mean, we utilize whatever resources we have, and the CIT trained officers we have in the field.
Thank you. Again, thank you for all that you do in the community, and the other piece of this, we wanted to introduce Datonna Cross. And I haven't actually met you, Datonna, so it's nice to meet you officially. She's the Director of Mental Health Court, mental health professional at the Guidance Center. So if you would introduce yourself, you know, Captain Grubbs has mentioned the partnerships that they have built. So if you would just introduce yourself and your role and how all that fits together.
Sure. So my name is Datonna. I am a therapist here with the Guidance Center. Been here for about 3 years now. And somehow I've managed to get intricately tangled up in every aspect of everything we've talked about. So initially I was brought on to do crisis intervention specifically. And so that might look like doing assessments at our crisis stabilization unit. That looks like doing suicide and mental health screenings for people that are already detained inside the jail. That might look like doing on-site crisis intervention, frequently getting calls from law enforcement working with the CIU unit. I train the officers that go through our CIT training at the specific crisis intervention module that we do. I do the involuntary commitment evaluation. So almost every aspect where law enforcement meets mental health, somehow I managed to find myself there in the middle too. And I can't speak highly enough of the efforts and the trainings that our officers have in our community. I mean, especially with the tensions and everything that's just going on nationally, like we are extremely lucky to have such highly trained officers that actually have a heart for mental health and intervention, and also diversion when and if we can, instead of just arresting and detaining someone. So I appreciate the relationships that we've been able to build. And as far as it goes to mental health court, we actually have our initiation meeting on the 17th to go ahead and push through with that. So that also will help to close a lot of the gaps that we're seeing with people that really need services that may not be willing to comply. Those are the ones that still end up in jail if they're really at risk or danger to themselves or others. So we're trying to continue to aid in that diversion, or get people out of jail that are there and, into mental health treatment. So looking forward to that starting. I think that'll be a really good help to the community as well.
Yeah, that'll be great. Speaking specifically of our 100 Families clients, we know that many of them have been victims of domestic violence and sexual abuse. Can you speak about how trauma from these events affects our clients, and then how our partner providers can adjust their services accordingly when working with 100 Families clients?
Sure. So oftentimes we don't realize how prevalent domestic violence or sexual abuse is. But actually, like 1 in 4 women, 1 in 7 men are going to experience domestic violence on a physical level. 1 in 3 women, 1 in 6 men on a sexual level within their intimate partner relationship. So, I mean, it's not going to be discriminated based on where the person is. This is just within our communities, how prevalent this is. As far as how it impacts an individual, so any type of trauma, but specifically domestic violence and sexual abuse, it's going to impact our ability to control and regulate our emotions. So when we're talking, especially, that's where law enforcement comes into play, because if we've got someone that's just not able to control themselves, control their behaviors, manage their anger or anxiety or depression, and we just kind of become overwhelmed, a lot of the times those are the scenes that officers will get called out to as well. So poor ability to regulate our emotions, impulsive behavior. So we're thinking without being able to, acting without being able to think of consequences, or what will the outcome be of this, or is this even really something I want to do? We're just acting without any regard to how that might affect ourselves or others, which is going to lead a lot of times to maybe some poor decision making or high risk behaviors. So high risk behaviors, could include substance use or, unsafe sexual relations and things like that, where we're just, being higher risk in the decisions that we might make, which is also, that's the result in maladaptive coping as well. So a lot of the times we can experience a trauma and, time it resolves. We don't have a lot of symptoms that might be commonly found in PTSD. Sometimes it doesn't just resolve that quickly, and we've got long-term effects, and it does develop into PTSD, and sexual abuse and domestic violence are very frequent for leading to a PTSD diagnosis. So that might include having frequent nightmares about whatever the traumatic experience was, having flashbacks, a lot of hypervigilance, just being on edge, and everything is kind of startling, untrusting, and avoidant of people or situations that trigger us or remind us of the abuse that we experienced. Our sleep may be disturbed. We might be sleeping not at all, or sleeping too much, sleeping all the time. Same is true for appetite. Maybe we don't eat anything. Some of us go the other extreme on the spectrum and eat all the time. Sometimes it gets to the point after isolation or withdrawing from other people, where we just completely, what we refer to as dissociate. So just completely mentally check out to remove ourselves as far as we can from whatever the traumatic experience was. As far as the 100 families, I mean, we all probably work with a lot of the same people in some capacity or another. So we get lucky in the instance that we work with the same person or the same families, and so then we know what their normal behavior is like. So it's a lot easier to be able to detect a change in behavior if we're familiar with it. So that might look like, for someone that we're familiar with, a development or increase in substance use. So if we know someone has a history of substance use or alcohol, and they've been clean for 6 or 7 months, and then all of a sudden they're using again or they're drinking again, usually there's some sort of trigger that might lend to that. And if we know them, and then we know that behavior is atypical, then that might be need for us to investigate a little bit deeper in what might be going on. If we know that they're timely and compliant with whatever their day-to-day responsibilities are, whether that's appointments or taking care of bills or going to classes or whatever they're supposed to be doing. And then all of a sudden, we haven't heard from them in weeks. They're not answering the phone, or they're just not, taking care of responsibilities like they typically would. Then we can know that that's also a red flag and something to investigate further. Outside of that, there might be an increased agitation or irritability. So usually they may be more calm and docile, and now all of a sudden they're really irritable and on edge and maybe a little bit more snappy than usual. That's subtle, but it's still something that might lend us to investigate. And by investigate, I just mean, hey, how's it going? Has anything changed? I have to do a thorough investigation or anything like that. And then, on the same token of that is that explosive behavior that might seem completely inappropriate. So you might say, hey, Mr. Jones, how's your day going? He just explodes and we're yelling and cussing or whatever that might not be appropriate given the situation that we're in. That usually can be a red flag, especially if it's not provoked. So I think the last part of what you asked was essentially kind of what our role was as partners and what we could do to help. A lot of it is just being mindful of the warning signs. If we don't know what to look for, then it's going to be hard to know that there's something that we're supposed to be doing. So a lot of the warning signs is everything that I've already discussed. And being aware of drastic changes in mood and behavior for clients that we are familiar with. Depending on the capacity that you work with the family or the client on, there may be screening tools that we can implement to catch things on the front end, especially for families that we're not familiar with. So frequently when someone's receiving any type of services, we've got some type of screening tool to make sure they're safe and not a danger to self or others. But we might even just be able to ask any sexual abuse history, any domestic violence in the home, any concerns for your safety at home. And then also being very mindful that asking them, what would you like to do about that? It's very frequent that we find out that a client we're working with is experiencing domestic violence or sexual abuse. And of course, we immediately want to jump in, we want to intervene, we want to do whatever we can to help keep them safe. And if we're not careful, we could do more harm than good, depending on the circumstances. So once it is identified that there's a level of domestic violence or sexual abuse or anything of that nature, it's very important for it to be client-led, for at their pace and at their time, for them to kind of lead the way of what they would like to do, but also being able to make sure they are absolutely aware of every option and every resource that they have to help get them out of the situation. And then I think the last part of that would be, just non-judgmental support, empathetic listening. And then the most important part of that is conducting a safety plan. So if there is immediate danger to their life or the life of, children in the home or anything like that, then that does prompt us, depending on your, if you're a mandated reporter or not, to intervene. So coming up with the adequate safety plans, and then the most important part, community resource linkage, getting them connected to someone that would be able to help address the needs that they have throughout the situation, whether that be counseling, housing, law enforcement protective order, filing a police report, whatever the situation, just being able that we're connecting them to the most appropriate services.
Yeah, I think I really appreciate everything that you just said. And, that connects really well with the focus of 100 Families being relational, how important it is to be holistic in our case management, in our interactions with the 100 Families clients, making sure that we do check in with them, get to know them, and understand where they are coming from. That's really, really important. So I appreciate you saying all that. Captain Grubbs, did you?
Yes, thank you. And again, piggybacking off Daytona, what I take out of this, the partnerships, communication, and education is such key. And I'd be remiss not to mention attending the Neighbors on the Block meetings that has led to partnerships with the Day Room, Hope Campus, the Good Samaritan Clinic. We've learned so much from these professional individuals that there are ones certain individuals we would deal with on a day-to-day basis. And that we knew something was wrong, but we just didn't know. We're not medical doctors, but we were so educated on some that had such volatile issues that all they needed was these particular medications, a shot once a month, and they were completely stabilized. So those partnerships are amazing. And that has educated us in so many different realms of the resources we can tap into. And one final about the vulnerable person database, wanted to reiterate to everybody that we really did our research on this. We involved our legal staff as far as the protection. You know, this is a HIPAA type situation. There's a release on that form, but it's been vetted by our legal staff. This will not ever commingle with criminal type investigation. So we really reiterate to the public that this is protected. It's protected against FOI laws. I mean, there's other laws that protect those individuals from the information being shared. And that information is solely based on the quick recovery or the return of someone who is vulnerable and getting them home and connected back to their families. So I just wanted to stress those two points.
Yeah, I appreciate you adding that. And kind of to wrap it up, do you have any additional, either one of you, any additional recommendations on what we all can do to assist while we're working with individuals that may be suffering from trauma?
Well, I think the biggest piece of that is just recognizing, you know, like as far as the guidance center goes, we have crisis intervention staff here. So a lot of times it's getting into an appointment and starting services and all of those barriers, which we don't have. We can go out to the scene if there's a crisis actively. We've had to do that frequently, regardless of where it's at. And, you know, we do have walk-ins available from 8:30 to 5. We've got the crisis hotline number, which I have the pleasure of answering that 7 days a week after 5. We've got so many supports built in for someone, you know, going back to the chart, and you guys were referring to the clients in crisis and things like that, where it could be immediate intervention. It does not have to be something that, you know, because we'll also help to link wherever it's appropriate whenever we're intervening in a crisis.
Yeah, and I did want to mention that we are recording this. Just I've had somebody ask if we can distribute it because this information is so helpful for the agencies and for the community that's working with these individuals. So we appreciate all that you all do, and we look forward to working together to really benefit those people that are in crisis. If you could provide that phone number for the hotline in the
Sure.
chat, I appreciate that.
You want me to do it in the chat?
Yeah, if you would, and I can get it out to everybody. So if anybody wants the recording of this training or this information, we can provide that. Anybody have any questions that they wanted to ask?
I guess I will. I have a question, Datonna, about some of our families we work with. They are diagnosed with PTSD. They have trauma from their childhood, and then of course even as adults as well. And sometimes they tell me that they're afraid that that their therapist or counselor won't think that they can parent their children because of the past things they've gone through. I just wonder if you could address that and help us to be able to encourage them to seek the help they need without additional fears.
Mm-hmm. So I guess there's a couple of sides to that. Number one, anytime someone's actively seeking treatment, that's definitely looked at as a positive side as far as ability to parent children, because you're noticing and recognizing that there's something that needs to be worked on, and you're being proactive about the steps you need to take to address those issues. I'm wondering if the concern primarily comes from, like, if you're in the middle of a domestic violence type of relationship and there are children in the home, And I do understand those concerns, but of course, as mandated reporters, if you come in and tell me you're being physically or sexually assaulted and your children are privy to that or witnessing that or in that environment, we do have an obligation to make necessary calls to help them be in a safer environment. So in a situation like that, we would partner with, something like the Women's Crisis Shelter or other resources to help to promote the safety and the well-being, not just of them, but of the children. So I have heard that concern as well. But
What about when it's in the past? It's not a current situation.
Then that's not something that would impact or, negate any reason to make a phone call or anything to do with the children. As long as the children are safe, they're not being physically harmed, they're not being sexually abused, their, mental emotional needs are being met, then there would not be any concern for anything further.
Anybody else have any questions?
I did want to add to that question. Of course, if there were concerns as far as that, our goal would be to see what we can do to help the parent meet those needs. As far as for their safety, our goal is not to have anyone come in and remove the children. It's to see what can we do to help to make this a safer environment. So that would be our primary focus.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate the Guidance Center. Been so good to help our 100 Families program. A lot of our clients, need immediate help, and the Guidance Center has been so kind to help us to be able to get people in quicker. So we appreciate that partnership. Without it, a lot of our families that need that immediate help would be waiting a while before they could get it. And you've been good about seeing our clients, even that didn't have, insurance or didn't, whatever it may be. But we man, it's a wonderful partnership to help these families.
Definitely. And I can also attach or send in the chat the phone number to the Crisis Stabilization Unit as well. As far as the crisis support, it's a 72-hour voluntary program. We primarily use that for jail diversion, but it's also open for community resources as well.
Yeah, that would be great if you could include that too.
Mm-hmm.
We did have a question about Crawford County and whether or not Van Buren has something similar to the CIU. I'm not sure.
Is that law enforcement wise, their CIU?
Yes.
As far as we know, there's not anyone else that's doing this right now on the police side of it.
Okay. Thank you.
Our database is Fort Smith specific too.
Yes.
If you directly enter our CAD and our records management, I mean, we're bound to our city limits for our database.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So again, I appreciate you two joining us, and then the CIU as well. It's always helpful to get that information that we can use and understand the resources that are available for our families, and how many resources there are. So we just gotta make sure that we are more aware and that we're all working together to access those resources and benefit these families. I really appreciate it. As far as 100 Families, as I mentioned, these weekly or monthly meetings are recorded, and we do have a YouTube channel now. So if you want access to any recorded monthly meetings, then just let me know, and I can send you the link to the YouTube channel. I know it's hard to always make it to these monthly meetings, but we appreciate you all being here. And if you want to pass it along to anybody, I always encourage you to invite people who may be involved with our families or interested in what our families are doing or learning more about resources. We do have 3 committees that also meet monthly. So if you want to get involved in one of those committees, it is Contact, Connection, and Career. And I was going to mention just briefly, I know, is Teresa still, yeah, Teresa's still on here. I know she doesn't want me to make a big deal out of it, but this is Teresa's last day at STEPS, and I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you to her for all the hard work that she's done for our families. So thank you, Teresa. She's muted right now. I don't know if she's here.
Thank you so much, Heather. I really do appreciate it. It has been my pleasure and my honor to get to work with everyone with the 100 Families crew. It was very kind of you to think of me. And I'm glad I don't have my video up so that you can't see the tears. But this has been something very near and dear to my heart since I first joined the initiative before it began. And so I just want to say thank you to everyone that has welcomed me from, coming from Little Rock and into Fort Smith. I truly appreciate all of the hospitality and the partnerships and the guidance and direction and information. I am grateful to each and every one of you, and I am so thankful for having the opportunity to work with you all. And I truly wish you the best, and I will continue to monitor the 100 Families Initiative because I want to see it to continue to spread all across Arkansas and beyond. It's a fantastic model. It's a community coming together, which is wonderful. The collaboration is fantastic. And I will forever, tell anyone that'll listen about it. So I wish every one of you all of the best, and I will continue to be in touch. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Teresa. And good luck to you. And please keep in touch. I know we'll be hearing from you. That being said, Heather Sanders at Community Rescue Mission is taking over the contact. I got to keep it straight. It's changed. Contact committee. You want to say just a little bit, Heather?
Sure, absolutely. I'm really excited. Teresa left this group in an amazing standpoint. We will continue to hopefully bring in new agencies to join with our contact. Our next meeting will actually be on the 26th, so if anybody is interested, it will be at noon. We will do it via Zoom. Please send me an email. My email is in the chat. I would love to add anybody that would be interested into that group.
They're the ones right at point of contact that are connecting with those families, and the connection committee and the career committee are currently looking for chairs. If you'd like to join either of those committees, I'd like to be happy to talk to you more about that and how to get involved and what those committees do and what they're trying to accomplish, because it's really the core of the community working together within those, and looks like Chief Baker's got something he wants to say. Did you want to hop on?
Sure, if I didn't want to interrupt.
No, you're fine.
So, well, last time we met, I said we should, be watching for the vulnerable persons database to come out. And just I want to thank Captain Grubbs and the CIU for the work that they've put in on that. I really think this is going to be a good thing for us. But we've got some other things in the works that probably Captain Grubbs is not even aware of. When I initially put together the crisis intervention unit, I assigned 4 positions to that particular unit, and because of manpower issues, we've only been able to provide 2 officers, but they've been so successful in their mission and the work that they're doing. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to be filling another one of those positions here within the next couple of weeks. So we'll be adding a 3rd officer to that unit. And I don't know, I'm sure Paul's aware of it, and some of you others may be aware of the state announcing, I think it's like $1.6 million in grant funding for battling the opioid crisis. It's up to a $50,000 limit per agency or program. And what we're going to try to do, because we all know there's a direct link between substance abuse and a lot of mental health issues. And as some of you touched on this today, the the importance of having someone who's trained in mental health other than a police officer. I mean, we're doing what we can in regards to the police approach and addressing mental illness and de-escalation and being that hub of contacts between the resources in the community. But we're very limited in what we can do and how we can approach some of these situations. So having a professional, a healthcare mental health professional that's partnered with us is going to be vital to our success moving forward. So I'm going to try to link this grant to funding a mental health / substance abuse professional to either on a full-time basis or a part-time basis to be part of the Fort Smith Police Department and the crisis intervention unit. Obviously, we'll have to figure out how to fund it after the grant goes away, but I have no doubt that the success of it will be quite evident in a very short amount of time. And so, providing long-term funding is not likely going to be an issue. So that's an exciting thing we need to be paying attention to and looking for. And if you have interest in that or know somebody that would make a good fit for something like that, let's start putting their names to the forefront. And then the other thing is we're working with the Harbor House right now to develop a pre-arrest or an alternative to arrest diversion program for low-level misdemeanor nonviolent crimes, so that an officer just has another tool in his or her kit, and be up to officer discretion, but can divert an individual to this program in lieu of an arrest for things like criminal trespass and shoplifting and misdemeanor marijuana possession. There's a whole list of crimes that we're looking at, but this is just going to be something else that we can use to hopefully not only reduce the number of people that are going to jail, but actually get them the services that they need to improve them so that they're not going to be this is not somebody we're going to have to be dealing with on a regular basis. So just some more things to be looking for and be excited about. Appreciate everyone and the work you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's again, it's always continually emphasized how when we all work together, we can really impact families that that can progress, from crisis to career, and not just continually intervene, but actually make a difference in stabilizing them long term. So I'm really excited about all the things that you all are working on, and appreciate your hard work as well. One thing I wanted to mention while we have the group together from the career committee, they did meet last week, and I wanted to make sure and remind everybody about Future Fit. That is the program that we are really hoping to get some people involved in, because it's such a good opportunity for not just 100 Families clients, but for anybody who can complete. It's a short 4-week training. Now, I don't think Kim is on this call. Kim Gordon was.
Heather, you want me to talk for just a second?
Oh, there you are. There you are. I didn't see you. I was looking for you. Would you talk about Future Fit for just a minute?
Caught in the rain, and I look like everybody's wet dog. So anyhow, there's no photo. So Future Fit, we're trying to launch our 3rd cohort right now. It will be in the month of September. The Future Fit program is funded by AEDC. So anybody at all, they don't have to be a TANF person. They don't have to be a 100 Families member. It can be any person at all who is hoping to gain skills so they can enter into manufacturing in what's called a mid-skill level position. They'll have those opportunities. So it's 3 weeks online training, 1 week in-person lab work where they're learning how to do the things that they learned online. We had to shift online because of COVID back in March. So, it's our first time to do it in this particular manner. Of our last cohort, we only had 6 graduates. We need to have 20 people in the class, and again, COVID. So we had 6 people graduate, and of those 6, 4 have jobs already, making about $15 an hour. So these are not minimum wage jobs. They are jobs with companies, directly working for the companies, not through any agency. So there are jobs that have benefits and so on, and it's been fabulous. But we have got very little interest so far in this group that was supposed to have started in August, so we shifted it over to September. We really need any of you that know of people that are under or unemployed to send these people our direction if they're wanting to learn the skills they've got to have in order to get a job where they're going to have access to health care and 401ks and vacation and holidays, things that most of these people have never, ever even experienced. So we are registering now. Anybody can shoot me an email. I know, Heather, you've got the flyers. If you could add that to your packet going out, that would be great.
And what is the start date for this one? September
8th. It's the Tuesday after Labor Day. Let me pop up a calendar. Since we had to shift it, I've forgotten. Yeah, September the 8th.
Okay. Yeah. So as I mentioned, and Kim has reiterated, it's a really good program for our families, because we can support them through it and try to work through any transportation issues or anything that they have, any challenges. But not just for our families, for anybody who can kind of successfully complete the program. It's a really good opportunity. So I encourage you to connect anybody with. You can connect with me. I've got the information. You can connect with Kim. My email's in the chat. If you didn't see it, it's right at the very beginning if you scroll through. But contact me or Kim for registration. And at that, I will ask, anybody else have any questions, comments, announcements?
On the Future Fit, they do have to have a high school diploma, and don't they also have to complete the career pathway program through adult ed where they can enroll?
They do have to have a high school diploma or a GED, and then they do have to have the career readiness certificate. So they don't have to go through any kind of training. They can just come over and take the test for the career readiness certificate. And as long as they pass that, they get either the platinum all the way to the bronze level, then they'll be admitted into the program. I'll be honest with you though, with the online portion that we're doing, they probably really need to have one of the higher levels of the CRC testing, because if they've not done that, then they're going to probably struggle with that online learning platform in our September group. But they don't have to do any kind of training. They just have to take the test, and our department gives it free. The CRC test nationwide, I think they rolled out in like 2008 or 9. There's never a fee to the client, no matter where you go in the US to do the CRC test.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah. And I'm sure if there are clients that need support with the digital aspect, I think we can probably, I don't know, through the literacy counselor, somebody provide some resources to assist if that's a barrier. So if you know of people and you know of barriers or challenges that they have accessing or completing that program, then reach out and we'll see what we can do. Any other questions, comments, announcements?
I just wanted to introduce myself and the other ladies that are on here. My name is Wendy Bradley, and I work for Head Start Child and Family Services. We are a birth to 5 program that is completely free for the families living in Crawford and Sebastian County. There is an application process. It is income-based. But if the family is a foster family, or if it's a homeless family, say they're currently staying at the Crisis Intervention Center or the Community Rescue Mission, whoever is over that family can write like a referral letter stating that they are currently staying there, so then they are automatically eligible for our program. It starts with the pregnant moms, and then once, we kind of work with the pregnant mom, and then once she has the baby, then they will start into early Head Start, and that's birth until they turn 3. Everything is provided, the diapers, the formula, the wipes. We do have extended hours from 6:30 to 5:30, and they go year round, minus the couple of weeks at Christmas, spring break. But that's really geared for the parents who are working. And so, all of the children's hours are 8 to 3. So say it is a foster or a homeless family and they're not currently working, we waive that requirement for them. We work with the family, trying to find different resources, as far as what they need. So I think this program is going to help us, and I think that maybe we could help y'all. Like I said, everything is free, everything is provided. Do y'all have any questions? And if I can put my email in the chat, that way if you want to email me, I can send y'all some applications.
Hey, I've got a quick question for you.
Yes.
Paul Chapman here. Hey, so what's it like now with COVID? Are y'all kids in programming? You're meeting with people, or are you fixing to open, or?
What we did was whenever the private school shut down, we closed down as well, as far as having our classrooms open. And so we communicated with the families still. We had families that would come to the center once a week and pick up diapers or formula, anything that they needed or needed assistance with, because a lot of our families that were working were no longer working due to the COVID. Right now we are gearing up and looking at what changes we need to make in the classroom so that we can open. Our plan is to open on September 8th. And so we're kind of getting things up and going. Our classroom ratios for the preschool are going to be a little bit smaller this year. But we had a lot of infants and toddlers age out whenever they turned 3 over the summer. So we have a few openings. And like I said, I mean, we're Crawford and Sebastian County. So we have 2 infant and toddler programs in Fort Smith, and then we have 1 in Van Buren as well.
Great, thanks.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you so much. And I look forward to connecting with you some more. We're just being introduced as well. The group is growing and including adding resources and partners. And I'm super excited about it. But you'll be hearing from me as well. I think that about wraps this up. One thing that I did want to say, as we do these monthly meetings, part of what we're trying to do is provide information and updates about the program. But really, these meetings are for you, the community, the partners. And so if you have any suggestions, if there's something specifically that you'd like us to address in these meetings, I would love to hear that feedback as well. If you have a new program or an old program or something that you want to tell us about, or if there's something that you'd like to learn more about, please let me know, and we'll get that worked in these monthly meetings. But I want to emphasize that everyone here, you are welcome to be involved in the Alliance at whatever level makes sense for you. We want to make sure that we're putting all of our partners in the right spots that is going to make the most sense for them to really impact these families, and we appreciate all that you do. If there are any other questions, comments, we will. Karen or Eddie Lee, did you want to add anything, Paul?
Coming off mute there. Eddie Lee, do you want to talk about the subrecipient grant? Or Heather?
Yeah, sure. We've got the opportunity for subrecipient grant, and that RFP should be available on the website, and anybody can go on and look at that. We're going to try to have 3 recipients for this first year. We hope to expand that in years to come. But for this year, we're going to keep it tight and concise as we kind of wrap our hands around the grant. We had a webinar, the MJ White, who's just an incredible trainer and facilitator in this process that she did. And Heather, was that archived where it could be? Okay, it's been archived where you can go and watch that. You want to just mention a little bit about that, Heather?
Yeah, the webinar specifically is it's on the YouTube channel. So like I said, anybody that wants to watch that can get on that YouTube channel, contact me to get that information. But this is a really exciting opportunity for us to build our capacity and increase the number of clients that we can serve and the ways that we can serve them holistically. So it's a new opportunity to build up the program, and it's pretty exciting to get some case managers brought on through the partner agencies, and we appreciate United Way doing all the legwork.
Heather, what's the deadline on that?
It's August 27th is the submission deadline. So And Angie Ruth there at United Way is the contact for specific questions on that application process.
Well, that's all I had. I appreciate everybody and the entire team effort. Karen, was there anything you wanted to add about the process?
All right.
No, I'll put the link. I was just looking up the link real quick so I can put it on the chat box for you.
All right. Well, as I said, I appreciate everybody. If you want to stick around and wait for that link to pop up, I think she's working on it. But otherwise, we can send it out, like I said, to anybody who's interested. And I just want to thank you all again for being here. It's a rainy Friday morning, so get you a cup of coffee and have a good weekend. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks all.